Welcome back to the latest episode of the 2023 Kulwicki Driver Development Finalist Profiles, or Driver Profiles, I should say. And this one is today we get to look at Franklin, Tennessee's own Jackson Boone. How's it going, buddy?
Oh man, it's going. Excited to be on again. So hopefully y'all can get some good information out of me for the next couple minutes here.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you okay, take me back to what's like the first kind of racing memory that you've had that you had?
Oh, sheesh. Man, my first ever racing memory was when and I can vaguely remember it. It would be when my dad took me to the National Fairgrounds when I was little. And his dad always took him when he was really young, and his dad actually died at a young age. But he kind of wanted to, I guess, start that tradition with me on Saturday nights, taking me down there to watch racing. And he took me one night, and I just fell in love with it. I watched for just hours, just the cars going around the track,
Right.
and I can vaguely remember, just the colors of the cars and the noise and everything. But man, that was probably my first ever like racing memory. Truthfully,
How old were you at the time?
that's a good question. Probably five, if I had to guess, about five or
Okay.
six.
Okay. Okay, so that your first racing memory out of the way, that got you hooked.
Oh yeah.
And then it was like, when did you first like go to somebody and say, I want to actually drive one of these things?
So actually, I my dad took me out to a quarter midget track that we had some family members that race quarter midgets, and he took me out when I was probably about five or six, and this was after I guess the fairgrounds deal. And I saw these things, and to me they just looked like go karts on steroids that were on a real racetrack. So I begged my dad for 2 or 3 years to get me one, and he bought me a go kart, and I would ride it around the yard in circles. Just I'd drive it until it ran out of gas. And he finally ended up getting me a quarter midget, and it actually sat in the garage for probably a year or 2 years. And basically, started racing when I was about 7, 8 years old. So it was that was when I really was I guess begging my dad to get into it. And that was kind of the age where I was like, I really want to pursue this now. When I was 15, I'd still been racing quarter midgets for a while, which is actually pretty long for some kids. And that's when my dad asked me, is this something you want to make a career out of? And that was when I had to kind of tell him, yeah, this isn't really a hobby for me. This is something that I want to seriously look at doing. And that's when we moved up to big cars.
Okay. When and how old were you at the time when you made the move?
About 15, give or take.
Okay. What was 15-year-old Jackson Boone like?
Man, all over the place. Really, when I got into late models, I went straight from quarter midgets to late models. So you're talking about like a 70-inch wheelbase all the way to a full size car.
Yeah.
And it was really a kick in the face because it was something that was completely out of my realm of like understanding. And most kids, you go to legends cars first, and I jumped up to a full size stock car. So it was really quite interesting. My personality as a 15-year-old was probably I was really talkative, just like I am now. Same person I am now, but a lot less understanding, I guess, about life and about racing. And to be honest, it was there was a lot I had to learn. But I feel like I've matured as a person since I was 15, and definitely become a better version of myself for sure.
What was growing up like, just overall? Like, take racing out of it. What was it just like growing up in, you know, the town should sound familiar to racing fans, Franklin, Tennessee. Of course, that's where Darrell Waltrip lives,
Yeah, absolutely.
and is from. So what was growing up like? What was like as a kid?
Uh, Really awesome. I mean, I've, you know, you'll hear a lot of stories about kids who have made it and, have not come from good backgrounds. But, man, I've come from such a great background. My dad and my mom, I've always been blessed, and my dad's had a good job. He's able to put, a roof over our heads, and, I've always had everything I needed. So, I'll never ever take for granted the opportunities I've had, because it's, I'm thankful for the things that, I've already been able to have. And, I've been able to do so much more than, regular kids or regular people my age. But, I grew up in a great home. And I've grown up in a great family who has supported me and been there for me since day one. And, man, to, be quite honest with you, I had a great childhood. So I wish I could go back every day and tell myself that those were some of the best days of my life, because they definitely were.
What was like? Was there any like big memory that stuck out? Like, I know going to the fairgrounds is obviously one, but was there another moment like completely outside of racing that you'll remember for the rest of your life?
Man, so my Aunt Kathy passed away. That was probably one of the most, significant deaths that we had in our family. She actually came to a lot of my races, so it was really weird to me, kind of when that hole had been, kind of broken open in my life. I would say that was a significant point in my life, and there were a lot of bad things that followed. I ended up having a friend that committed suicide, and that was a life changing situation for me, because it really opened my mind to mental health. And I fell into a place where I was dealing with mental health issues, and those were two, very significant events. And there were a lot of actual significant events that followed within almost the course of a year and a half, 2 years, that really changed my life outside of racing. And like looking back, I always hated it in the moment, but looking back, some of those things were good to learn from and good to mature from. And it's really opened my eyes to, other ways that I could be a better person in my own life, without sounding cheesy, but it's the truth.
So when did all this happen to you?
Oh man, this was actually 2019, 2020, kind of COVID
Yeah,
year somewhat.
yeah. So, we'll get to that later. But let's go back to 15-year-old you, and your racing career. Then we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Sick. So you made the transition to big cars. What did you do? Like, what did you go into?
Straight to pro late models,
Yeah,
which or just the late model class with, like, just a straight up crate engine.
yeah,
I ran at Highland Rim for my first year, and basically when I started there, I only ran a handful of races, and actually kind of graduated up to running at the fairgrounds and traveling with Willie Allen Racing, pretty much like almost under a year after I had just started at Highland Rim. So I kind of jumped up rather quickly.
so when did you race? When did you meet Willie?
So we met Willie when I first started, when I was like 15. And he had done some like shock stuff for us, because everybody was telling us, like, this is the guy to go to in Tennessee. Um, and we were struggling finding a place to keep my car, and he offered us kind of like basically a deal where we could keep the car in his shop and they would maintenance it and all this stuff. And that kind of is what turned into the developmental deal with them. And that was kind of the first team I ran for. So pretty much.
Yeah, of course, Willie Allen, of course, the owner of Rackley War, of course, the truck team that Matt
Correct.
DiBenedetto currently drives for. So,
Correct. Yep.
um, all right. So what happened after that?
Basically, when I started running for Willie, obviously Willie's got a lot of presence at the fairgrounds, so and has for a while. So I ran full time at the fairgrounds in 2017, and they tried to kind of I guess exposed me to more of like traveling and getting around and running different tracks. So, like we went to like Cordell and Montgomery, and then I think Pensacola once or twice. And in 2018, we really started like traveling more, running more competitive. We were a top five car at the fairgrounds, which was awesome. And I actually ran the World Series that year. 2018 was a very, very big transitional year in my
Yeah.
racing career. That's where I figured out, really how to race. And then 2019 is when we won our championship at Nashville in the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And that was an awesome, awesome year. 2020 year, lost sponsorship, was kind of out of the car for a while.
Yeah.
And then 2021, I got back into it with Jamie Yelton
Hmm.
and those guys. And then you have last year that I ran, and I was in this program, and then you fast forward to kind of where we are today. That's pretty
Yeah.
much where I've been. I've been running. I moved up to pros and supers when I was pretty much, we'll say, like 2020. So I've been running supers predominantly kind of since then.
Okay. Well, there's a lot I'm gonna pivot back to.
Yeah,
Um,
sure,
you just kind of gave the short story a little bit. I'm gonna
sure, yeah.
pick a few things out of that. Let's go back to 2019 when you won. What was it like the first? I mean, before that, what was it like the first time that you ran at the fairgrounds, like in a car?
Oh man, really, it was really weird for me. I use that word a lot because you know, obviously a cool kind of weird, but I've been going there since I was like a little kid, and when you look at everything from a point of view from outside, or the other side of the catch fence, you're looking at the billboard and you're looking at all these people, getting in these race cars that are, they look like big, huge, just I guess heroes to you, so to speak. And when I first actually strapped into a car there and ran laps, it was so weird because for all those years I'd always watched and been on the other side of the wall, and for the first time ever, I was the one on the track, and it just, I don't know, it almost felt like not real. And I know there's other people that have kind of said the same thing, but it still has that feeling, man. I've been racing out there for a while now and made so many laps, and it still feels weird because you look up at the scoreboard and it's the same old track that's from my childhood. So it's it's really awesome, man. It is so freaking cool.
When you won the track championship, what was that like?
That was that took a while to set in. They tore down motors at the All American and basically teched everybody, and declared us official and everything, and everybody kind of congratulated each other, and um, it really took probably like 2 weeks for it to actually like kick in and really sink into my brain, and become an event that I was like, holy crap, like I actually I won that. And to see my name on the list with all of those other names that are literally, you know, racing pioneers was that was just insanity. Absolute insanity.
So really after that, that's kind of where a lot of things, you were out of the car for a little bit. What happened after that? Because there was a lot that happened, and
Yeah.
but it also taught you a lot too.
Absolutely. So, man, without going into like a 2 hour conversation, which I could easily, but
I mean, you could.
um, 2019, so I lost my Aunt Kathy, excuse me, and that was really, kind of one of the first significant deaths, other than my great grandma, that I'd had in my life. And it was really tough because we all watched her struggle for a number of years, because she had cancer for a while.
Right.
And I actually got my first win on a weekend where she was, getting close to passing away. And I remember being able to take her the trophy before she passed away. And She actually died. Actually, I want to say it was about 2 weeks later, and we had another race. And I didn't want to be at the racetrack. I don't want to talk to anybody. We showed up, and we actually won that weekend. That was really emotional. But coming off of 2019, we had a lot of good momentum in racing. Things were good, and we started out 2020 on just the absolute wrong foot. Everything that could go wrong with the car mechanically, or just bad luck, anything that could go wrong, it was like Murphy's Law. Could went wrong, and it just wasn't working out. And we tried to run the super as much as we could. We struggled in the super. We went to Pensacola, and I think we got lapped like twice one night. And it was awful. It was such a punch in the gut. And then I had one race in Nashville where I had a couple sponsors there, and this was actually our last race of that entire like year. And basically there was a lot like riding on this race, like a lot had to go right. And I started the race on the outside pole, passed for the lead. I led like 9 laps, then lost the power steering. The clutch started going out, and then something else happened, something with like the ignition box or something, and ended up having to pull in. I mean, we dropped like a rock, and we had a sponsor pull out after that race. It was just, man, everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was insane. But basically, we were out of sponsorship money at that point. We were kind of on a shoestring budget per se that year, kind of tiptoeing through the year. But after that, my dad he was like, we can't do it. And my dad's a really big like money guy. Like he can do anything, financially. He's great with numbers. He's great with money. So I knew like when he actually cut the cord on the racing that it was really bad, because he's good about moving money around and knowing how to strategically race throughout a year. So it was a kick in the gut, man. And then after that, I was out of the car, and I kind of just went down a really bad path mentally. I had a friend that committed suicide. I looked at this guy as he was a mentor to me. It was somebody I detailed cars for, actually somebody that I raced with. And it just, man, like it was somebody I would call every week to get advice from. It was a guy I was really close with. And man, that was one of the first deaths in my life that like really rocked me for a solid, month, 2 months. Like I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get through it. And then I had a friend killed in a car accident, and a couple weeks later, and then I think like a couple weeks after that, our family dog died. I mean, all this stuff was just going wrong, and man, I got to a point where, I had become a person that I didn't really like. I was drinking, I was hanging out with friends that I shouldn't have been hanging out with, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. Um, really went down uh, a tough road mentally, and fell into a state of depression that was really quite bad, because I never talked to anybody about it and never really reached out. There were nights I would sit in my car and I'd just sit in my car and cry, and because I never reached out to anybody. So, you know, um, things kind of started picking up with the racing again in 2021. And I got back into racing in 2021, which was a huge blessing. But there were still a lot of problems I was dealing with mentally, at that point, that were, affecting both my racing and my personal life. Still hanging out with people I shouldn't have been, and still doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And thank God for Jamie Yelton and those guys, because they were all, really, really open arms. And my dad, he kind of told Jamie at the start of it, he's like, I'm handing my son over to you. And, you know, I want you to kind of, reteach him. And there was a lot of things I didn't know about racing, and I kind of relearned racing. which I tell people that all the time. There's a style of racing that you have to adapt to be able to run with these guys that are running consistently, up front in the Southern Super Series, like your Pollard or Nassie or Robbins or guys like that. And I had to learn that, but Jamie was really good about teaching me, a mindset that I could carry through life and a mindset that I could carry, not just at the track but outside of the track. And those guys, all those guys were the same about it too. I mean, my spotter, he'd be one of the first ones to grab me by the shirt collar and get in my face after a race if I was acting like a clown. I dealt with temper issues for a year that were really bad, and it was the same way with Jamie. There were a lot of really long nights at the track where I threw a temper tantrum when I got out of the car, and Jamie had to get on to me, but it was all very, very deserved at that point. And but I will look back and forever be grateful for it because all of the things that happened in my life, shaped me being, not only a way better race car driver, but a way better person in general.
Yeah. So you mentioned like all the struggles that you had. How'd you get out of it?
Man, you know, with time, I think, eventually things, pain will subside. And eventually your life, you'll find that as you go through life, there's many peaks and valleys. And I was in a valley for a long time. But man, getting through that stuff, I actually had to go finally put my, I guess, ego aside and went and saw a counselor. I saw a counselor for, man, I saw her for a while. And that really helped. Just like finding tools that you can use mentally to keep yourself kind of on the railroad tracks,
Yeah.
and just that, and with a combination of a lot of prayers and really my faith got me through it. But I had to learn some lessons too. I think there were a lot of lessons that I had to go through, and situations that I had to approach the wrong way so that I could learn. But I slowly came out of it. It was a very, very slow process, and it was a painful process too. But over the course of what I would say is, about a year and a half, I really slowly came out of that valley.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Yeah. So once you got back into racing, it's good, got out of that. When did you feel like that, okay, I've gotten through everything, I've been through the worst. I'm back. I'm back.
So definitely not as soon as I started back. That's actually a really good question because when I started back in 2021, we ran good in our pro car. We ran like decent, but man, and I struggled in the super. Once again, that goes back to me telling you I had to relearn how to race. And I had to kind of learn the art of racing and the art of running against like cutthroat competition. Um, and Jamie specializes in that because he's run with these guys for so long. But I would say it wasn't really till like last year, almost really halfway through last year, that I actually felt like, all right, I've gotten some of my legitimacy back, and now I know wherever I show up, I can win at. Because until that point, we struggled as a team. There was things that Jamie was kind of relearning because he had been out of the sport for a couple of years, and there was a lot of things that I was relearning because I'd been out of the sport for a year and a half, and everything had progressed, and I'd been sitting on the couch. But also there was, once again, things that I had to learn that I still didn't know yet as a driver, and that took a while, man. It took a long time, but it would I would say probably last year, really, when I won uh a Nashville race, or probably one of my super races at Montgomery last year. Those were some huge turnaround points when I was like, all right, I'm starting to figure this out now.
Yeah. So when was this? So this was like 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Okay. So what made you okay? So go back to 20 like early 2022. What made you decide to apply for this thing? This Kulwicki driver development program. How'd you like first find out about it?
So I found out about it online,
Yeah.
actually in 2020, and I applied for it during the COVID year, I
Yeah.
guess. And actually, I made the semifinal, board, and I had already done the interviews and everything, and we kind of went through COVID, so they put a pause on everything and everybody. And I let's see here, I started that year already in the late models, I mean, pro and super. And basically, we had this stuff with the sponsors, COVID happened. And then after that wait, we kind of came back and they had still not found like the seven drivers yet. So I knew we were going downhill. And I called Tom and told him that I was pulling out because if I made the final seven, I wasn't going to be able to run all those races.
Right.
And that was really my first taste of the Kulwicki thing, which was it. It was really like disheartening, but man, going into last year, I finally knew that like, all right, I can like run enough races to be in this program. I can do the things to be in this program. And man, it was like so freaking awesome. Just the application process, going through all the interviews, everything worked out, man. It worked out so well. And my mindset going into it was really excited, and being even considered for it 2 years in a row is insanity, but really, really cool.
So how did you meet Jay Demarcus?
Man, so my sponsor that has always sponsored us, or been kind of our core guy, Danny, went into business with Jay, and that was Registry Records. Both him and Danny have sponsored us, and they're co-owners of that deal. So I actually met him at our official sponsorship agreement meeting. That was the first time I'd ever met him. But he is like he's the same guy that you see on social media and TV, like down to earth, like always smiling, really just genuine person, which is really cool because he has the opportunity to not be that guy, and he's a great dude.
Yeah. So how did you think 2022 went for you?
I would say overall successfully. I would say there was a lot of things once again at the beginning of the year that I could have, done differently or done better on. But the last half of 2022 was probably the most successful, bunch of racing that I've had in my life, ever. So, to be able to look at that and look back on that and like, analyze that, I would say complete success.
Yeah. So what made you want to apply for it again?
So Tom had told me at the banquet, he's like, you need to apply again. I think he told every kid that. And I was like, I really thought about it over the off season, and there was like, we weren't sure if we were going to try to move up or not. And it was like, I don't know or whatever. But, then I really like got deep into thought about it. And I'm like, man, this is such a prestigious program, and I'm only going to get this opportunity once, like once I've moved up or, passed the opportunity up, it's like, it's not coming back. So, my whole philosophy on that was, I if I didn't win it the first year and I have an opportunity to be in it again, I gotta try to be in it again. Just for the prestige and just the involvement that that program has with short track racing and really everybody in the country. It's crazy.
Yeah. So did you think you were going to be a finalist?
I was confident that I had a good shot. I I was confident I could make the semifinalists. But man, like the competition was pretty like good. So I was like, man, I was like, if I don't make the seven finalists, I'm like, I'm not gonna cry about it. Like it's not, something to be upset about because there's some really good drivers in there, and it was it was still a surprise to me, and it was awesome to have that for sure.
Yeah. So now that you're a finalist again, what is that like? Not many people get to do it, let alone once, but twice.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Man, it's really cool. It's just, and I know I've said that a lot, but um, it's really kind of a neat thing to like step back and look at, especially when you just think about, the guys that are running this were literally Alan's friends. So, and this whole program like embodies his spirit. So, you know, it's just really really crazy to think of such a successful person like we're representing him, and the fact that I've been able to do it 2 years in a row, and that his own friends and the people that are involved with this program thought that I was good enough to be in this program a second year is it's an honor. It's honestly an honor.
Yeah. Um, so I think the last 2 years, after everything that you've been through, what was the biggest thing that you kind of learned throughout the process? As my good friend and my manager always says, Jason Tracy, he always told me that that your worst moments can lead into some of your most successful moments.
This is very true. I would agree exactly with what he said. That is a huge, huge, um, phrase to live by. I feel like, but really something that accompanies that, and what my biggest, I guess, attribute would be composure. That's what Jamie and them have worked on with me for so long, and man, it was so hard for me to learn because once again, I had that temper issue, and I had to go to counseling to get this temper issue worked out. I mean, it was that bad, and I still don't have it all figured out. I'm not perfect, but it's man, composure has been like the most valuable thing that I've learned, and I feel like it has paid dividends because there have been situations both end of last year and this year that were not good situations for our team and things that have happened. And I've been able to keep my composure and basically see the results that keeping your composure yields over losing your temper. And it was like a really big eye-opening moment for me because I was like, oh wow, like okay, like this is how this situation will go if you can just keep your head cool. So um, once again, man, I would say composure. That's got to be my favorite word and my favorite I guess lesson that I've learned.
Okay. Well, let's get to know you a little bit, Jackson. Like this is like completely outside. If you've watched the last two episodes
Heck yeah.
we did. We'll do this again. So, what's the most interesting thing people might not know about Jackson Boone?
Man, I would say like something that people don't know is I'm a not a master, but I'm a huge aquarist. So I love fish. I have since I was little. I started out with like a little 5 gallon fish tank that my mom bought for me, and she bought it so that I could have a goldfish in my room. And it was it turned into basically I got it from my grandfather. And he fed me into the racing thing too. So he has fed me into a lot of financial trouble. And he'll laugh if he watches this video. But he kind of he's always been a NASCAR guy, and that's what got me into the racing because he's always had a little NASCAR diecast when I was little. He'd let me play with them.
Yep.
But he has a huge fish tank at his house too. Well, I wanted to get one like him, and fish keeping is a hobby that once you get into it, you can just spend as much money as you want. Like you can grow the hobby so much. So I've got a 50-gallon fish tank in my room right now that I keep. Man, I've that would be like a fact that I don't think many people know that about me. I'm all about aquarium keeping though. I love it.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing if you're not racing?
Man, if I'm not racing, detailing. I detail cars. I do a lot of enhancement to cars. So I actually work back and forth at a shop right now that does powder coating stuff. But mainly paint corrections, ceramic coatings. And if I'm not detailing cars, I'm working on cars. I buy and sell them. I'll flip them. I'll buy like a little beat up car for $1,000. Try to sell it for 3,000. Um, I love messing with them. Love messing with cars. Always have.
Yeah. Um, Outside, let's kind of take me through the what is the life like in the Boone house?
Pretty good. Pretty good. My sister, she is so she I'm trying to think of what the best word to describe her is. More so introvert, but like has a huge personality
Yeah.
and really, really good artist. She's done MMA fighting. She is like all about other people's feelings, though. Really good about pertaining to other people's feelings. She wanted to be a paramedic there for a while. She's thinking about getting back into it. She took a little break, but she does a lot. She does a lot of like different things that girls usually don't do. My brother is he is a huge brainiac. Like he's actually going to Brown University in New York.
Awesome.
He got accepted into Yale, Cornell. I mean, just Duke, like just absolutely insane schools, and super super smart. My dad, he's pretty laid back. He works from home a lot, but he works. I'll give him that. We're super blessed to have him. But he's done a lot for our family. He's laid back though. Usually at home a lot. My mom is the same way. She's always doing stuff around the house, running errands. Once again, laid back. She's an easy mom to deal with, so which is a huge positive because I am hard to put up with. I know I am. But it's man, I've got a great family, great home life. I couldn't complain one bit.
That's awesome to have.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Trying to think of anything else that I should ask. Favorite movie?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I for some reason I love the movie Twister. I like tornadoes and storms have always like fascinated me. I've always loved that movie since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Or like the original Spider-Man. Love the original Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Great movie. Um, Man, that'd be something I have to get back to you on because it's one of those things like you don't remember it until you like think of it at a random time. You're like, oh yeah, that's my favorite movie. But no, I'd have to get back to you on that. I have a lot of like favorite movies, I guess.
Okay. Let's see. How many races do you think that you can remember? Like going all the way back. Do you remember all the races? Like, oh, I know what this happened. I know this happened. I know this happened. I know this guy got into me and all that. Do you remember all
Yeah,
that? Everything?
racers always remember. I mean, you know that phrase. You're not dumb. You've been in the sport.
Yeah.
It Racers always remember. I remember
Yeah.
from quarter midgets what wreck happened when and yeah, who the guy was that wrecked me. um
How many times have
I
you been wrecked?
oh gosh. I've been wrecked. Oof. If I had to like tally them, I would say probably 20, 30 times. But I
Ah, because
mean,
you've been racing a long time.
yeah, it's I was gonna say like that's pretty fortunate compared to like some other people.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not perfect either. I've wrecked people on accident. I wrecked one person intentionally one time, and I will never, ever, ever forget the butt chewing I got from my dad and Jamie Elton. It was one of the greatest butt chewings ever. So I will never, ever take anybody out
Like,
again.
oh, okay. Okay, we got to get the full story on this. When did this happen?
It was Pensacola. It was me and Sammy Smith. And me and Sammy are good now. At least I hope. He's Me and him have raced each other several times since then,
Okay.
and not touched. So, oh man, that was bad. So he got into me. this was a super race,
Yeah.
and it was like night. I think it was night. No, no, this was just like a singular super race. Not it was not a doubleheader. So we had gone down there, and he started behind me, and it was like the first like few laps. I'd already had a guy that ran me down the track and hit me, and I was already in bad mood. And we go into one, and he jacked me up in the
Yeah.
back end, and then got under me. And then when I guess we got three wide, and he got up high enough to where it put me in the wall. So I just like next corner, I just fired it off in there. I was like still on the rev limiter when I'm like up under his car, I could like see his oil pan.
Yeah.
And man, it wrecked his car, but the bad part was it wrecked my car too. So like, and it ended our night. So the like number one rule of like obviously like wrecking people is if you're gonna wreck someone, don't wreck yourself.
Yeah. Thanks, Landon
And
Castle.
oh my gosh, dude, like dude, it was so bad. Like my mom literally bought me a different hotel room that night so that I did not stay in the same room with my dad. It was that bad. I deserved it though. I deserved it. I was immature, Jackson. So it's all
Yeah.
right though. I'm past those days.
When did what year was this?
That was 2021. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2021.
Yeah. All right. Um, okay, so one last thing before you go. Where do you I believe you're racing this week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
where are we going to see you?
So, well, this week or this weekend, I will be racing at Fairground Speedway Nashville, and that is in the pro late model. Obviously, ARCA will be there, and then a couple of the local classes. And then we actually turn right around and leave that next morning to go to North Carolina, and we run North Wilkesboro that Tuesday.
How exciting is that?
I'm pumped. I'm pumped. There should be like three or four cup drivers in the field.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like snowball derby stacked. So
Yeah.
I'm like really nervous, but really excited. It's a good nervous. The day I quit getting nervous for this stuff, it'll be the day I quit. But I'm excited, man. I'm really, really pumped up.
Well, Jackson Boone, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. And best of luck this weekend and best of luck on Tuesday too.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right.